So imagine if I asked you to go about your day and list out all of the different emotions you experienced as you felt them. How many emotions do you think you'd be able to come up with? Well, it's probably less than you think. Research shows that we're really not great at this. We actually kind of suck at it. Brene Brown and her team surveyed 7,000 people over the course of 5 years and asked them to list the emotions they could recognize and name as they experienced them. You want to take a guess at the average number of emotions that people could identify? It was a whopping 3. The emotions were happy, sad, and angry. So why is any of this relevant and important to you? What I need you to know is that your emotional intelligence, or your ability to understand and manage emotions, is closely linked to your ability to recognize and name those emotions. But what we actually see is that many people struggle with this. We're not so good at putting our feelings into words. We're often mixing up our emotions or not fully understanding what the hell we're actually feeling. And when we don't have the right words for our emotions, it's harder to deal with them in a healthy way. Brene Brown touches on this in her book Atlas of the Heart. She says, when we don't have the language to talk about what we're experiencing, our ability to make sense of what's happening and share it with others is severely limited. The negative effects of not understanding your emotions can show up in so many different ways. Some of us might find it hard to handle strong emotions, and we try to shove them away or resist them. Others might lean towards avoidance tactics, doing everything they can to distract themselves from having to deal with any sort of discomfort. And then there are those of us who tend to react quickly to our emotions without stopping to think first. Without being able to put a name to your emotions, it's tough to understand why you're feeling a certain way, and that makes it nearly impossible to deal with those feelings in a good and productive way. This then has a trickle-down effect on us. It increases our stress levels, it makes it difficult for us to connect with others, and it interferes with us achieving our goals. Philosopher Ludwig Wittgenstein once said, "The limits of my language mean the limits of my world." And this rings true when it comes to our emotional experiences. If we can't describe how we're feeling accurately, it's like having blind spots in our emotional landscape. Imagine trying to navigate through a dense forest without a map or compass. You'll likely stumble around, be unsure of where you're going or what's ahead. Similarly, without a precise emotional vocabulary, you often wind up lost in your own feelings. Expanding your emotional vocabulary is like equipping yourself with better tools for navigation. It allows you to explore the intricacies of your emotional terrain with greater clarity and insight. And this is where the concept of emotional granularity comes in. Emotional granularity refers to our ability to pinpoint and name our emotions accurately. It's like having a finely tuned emotional radar that helps us navigate through the ups and downs of life. Now, as you can imagine, not everyone possesses the same level of emotional granularity. Some people have really high levels of it and are great at expressing a wide range of emotions with a lot of detail. So they're using terms like content, frustrated, and anxious when expressing their emotions. And then there are those who have low emotional granularity, and they stick to just a few basic emotions like happy, sad, or angry, right? Their emotional vocabulary is more limited, so they might struggle to explain exactly how they're feeling. Now, there's been a lot of research on the benefits of having high emotional granularity, and we've already touched on some of them. But let me throw a few more interesting findings your way. Research shows that people with high emotional granularity visit the doctor less often. They use medications less frequently, and they spend fewer days in the hospital. Other studies have shown that people with high emotional granularity are 30% more flexible when regulating their emotions. They're less likely to drink excessively when they're stressed, and they're less likely to retaliate aggressively against someone who has hurt them. Not only that, my favorite study on this topic involved people with a fear of spiders. Researchers exposed participants to a live spider and divided them into 4 groups. Group 1 was instructed to use cognitive reappraisal, and this basically means that they described the spider in a non-threatening way and tried to implement positive thinking. So for example, they might say, "Sitting in front of me is a brown spider, and I am safe." Group 2, on the other hand, used distraction techniques and were basically told to ignore the spider. Then Group 3 engaged in affect labeling, and this means that they describe their feelings in a detailed and precise way. So instead of saying, "Sitting in front of me is a brown spider and I am safe," they might say, "In front of me is an ugly, disgusting, anxiety-producing spider that is also a little bit mysterious, odd, and somewhat intriguing." And then lastly, Group 4 was the control group, and they weren't given any specific instructions while being exposed to the spider. So which group do you think handled their anxiety the best? You probably guessed it. It was Group 3. The participants who engaged in affect labeling and gave detailed descriptions of their emotions experienced less overall anxiety than the other groups. Researchers noted greater use of anxiety and fear words during exposure was associated with greater reductions in fear responding. So by now, I'm hoping that you have a better understanding of what emotional granularity is, how it can help you, and the downsides of not developing this skill. So the next question you're probably wondering is, how can I improve my emotional granularity? What things can I do to build this skill? Well, I'm going to share with you 3 simple tips on how to do just that. Tip number 1 is to increase your awareness of the emotions you experience. I want you to try to make it a habit to check in with yourself at least once a day. Try to reflect on your feelings and ask yourself questions like, what emotions did I experience today? What did these emotions feel like in my body? When first getting started, doing this might be harder than it sounds. A lot of people benefit from looking at a feelings list or an emotions wheel when asking themselves these questions. These tools often display a wide range of emotions, and they can help you identify exactly what you're feeling. And if you spend a few minutes each day getting familiar with one of these tools, you'll become more effective at accurately pinpointing what emotions you're experiencing. If you really want to be an overachiever, what you can do is try completing an hourly feelings chart for a few days. So with this, what you do is essentially record your emotions every hour. And this type of intense tracking can give you deeper insights into your emotional patterns and your triggers. Now, whether you want to do emotional check-ins once per day or multiple times per day, a helpful tool to know about is the How We Feel app. This app was developed by scientists out of Yale University's Center for Emotional Intelligence, and it's totally free. All right, and just a little disclaimer for those of you who are wondering, I have no affiliation with them, but I actually downloaded this app on my phone and it's pretty cool. You can set your notifications for how often you want to do a check-in with your emotions, and it gives you multiple emotions to choose from. It will then group your emotions together and show you what type of emotions you're predominantly living in, along with tips on how to overcome challenging emotions. It's pretty badass, and I'll include a link to it in the description if you want to check it out. Now on to tip number 2, and this is to discuss your emotions with other people. I want you to consider engaging in purposeful conversations about your feelings. This can be with a friend, family member, a coach, or even a therapist. Another option to consider is joining support groups, like the private crush anxiety Facebook group. As you can imagine, joining groups can help connect you with people who are experiencing similar emotions, and they provide you with a sense of community, right? Because there's nothing worse than trying to open up and be vulnerable with someone who is completely invalidating. I'm a big believer in finding people with a similar mission or goal that you have, because there's no better feeling than that moment when you realize these are my people. They get me and what I'm trying to do with my life. All right, now on to tip number 3, and this is to expand your emotional vocabulary. And there are many effective ways you can do this. My personal favorite way is to read books that dive into different emotions and human experiences. Books on psychology or self-help can provide direct insights into emotional concepts and offer practical advice. And if you're not into that kind of stuff, reading novels can actually be really beneficial too, especially if they explore a character's inner life in full detail. Now, if the idea of reading a book gives you the not a chance in hell vibes, then maybe you want to consider checking out a podcast instead. There are plenty that dive into emotional intelligence, mental health, or human behavior, and these often introduce fresh ideas and include expert interviews, which can really help with introducing you to new concepts. At this point, you're hopefully well aware by now that the real key to improving your emotional intelligence lies in expanding your knowledge and deepening your understanding of emotions. The skill of emotional granularity is so important that I really want to help you out with this. I'm going to start making more episodes that specifically focus on exploring different emotions so that you can better distinguish between them. In addition to this, I'll be launching a newsletter where we dive into a different emotion each time. Alongside that, I'll also share practical tips for managing challenging emotions or thoughts, in addition to sharing insights from other experts that I've come across and found valuable. I might even recommend some helpful products that I personally use to tackle my own stress and anxiety. So make sure to click the link in the description to sign up for the newsletter if you're interested. I'm all ears on your suggestions on what you'd like to see included in it. My aim is to make it as beneficial as possible for you, so don't hesitate to share your ideas with me. Talk soon, my friend. Until then, keep kicking ass and crushing it.